Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. A while ago I shared with you some of my high school stories from 1st to 3rd year, and these were the stories that still make me laugh, still make me smile, even after all these years, and hopefully they made you smile as well. And today I'd like to continue that video and share with you my stories from 4th to 6th year, so I hope you enjoy. I feel like this first story really sums me up as a friend. Just like in the TV sitcom, if you need me, I will be there for you. But if you're going to do something stupid, you better believe that I'm going to be in the front row laughing my face off. So this friend in particular in this first story was called Alan. And Alan was a very intelligent guy, but he also made some questionable decisions from time to time. So at break time one time he came over to us and he was like, "Guys, I've just acquired some sellotape from the art department. Who wants to hold it while I run around and you can tape me up?" And Alan had a lot of friends who had similar minds to Alan, and they were like, "Dude, yes, let's do this." So Alan ran round, and 5 minutes later he looked like an Egyptian mummy covered in bandages. His arms were taped to his side and his legs were taped together as well, so all he could really do was hop from place to place. And he thought it was amazing until the bell rang, and then he was like, "Guys, what's going to happen here? Guys, can I get some help?" And one of his friends just went over and put his bag onto his back and was like, "You're good now, bro." And me and Alan were actually in the same class after break time, so I went over to him and I was like, "Are you okay? Do you need any help?" And he was like, No, I'm good. You just walk on ahead." And I did walk on ahead because I knew that the face on the teacher and everybody else in the class was going to be priceless when Alan finally turned up. So 10 minutes later, Alan finally made it into class and he looked like he'd been attacked by something. His arms and his legs were free, but he still had sellotape all over his clothes, and the teacher was just like, "I don't even want to know." Alan had hopped through the front door, and very quickly one of the teachers had spotted him and realised something was wrong with this picture. So they were like, "Alan, what's going on?" And he kind of hopped over and he was like, "Oh, just friend stuff." He got a very quick talk about bullying because the teacher couldn't believe that a 14-year-old boy would willingly volunteer to be taped up like he was. And then the teacher and one of the janitors cut him free so that he at least was able to move his arms and legs. I don't regret my decision to go on ahead and not help him like a supportive friend probably should. And I'm probably going to hell for that. I'm very sorry, Alan, but you make poor life choices. You make poor life choices. I love you, really. My next story comes from my 5th year maths class, and to give you a bit of background on how I did at maths, I wasn't one of the best students. I started out at the school and I was in one of the lower sets, and then through sheer hard work and determination, I made it up to one of the top sets, so I was really proud of that. And in 5th year, I was able to take higher maths. Higher maths consisted of an exam at the end of the year, but there was also little tests you had to pass throughout the year called NABs to show that you understood the syllabus. On the day that I was due to get my NAB results back, I saw my maths teacher, Mr. Brown, in the corridor. So I was like, "Hey, Mr. Brown," and he said, "Hi, Kate, well done on passing your NAB." And I was like, I passed my NAB, and I was like really buzzing for the rest of the day. I was like, I passed my NAB. And my friend Tony was also in my class, and she was like, "Oh, you heard you'd passed your NAB. Did he say how anybody else did?" And I was like, No, he didn't. And then I started to doubt myself. I was like, I think I passed my NAB. So then we saw him going past in the corridor again, and I said, "Mr. Brown, I did pass my NAB, didn't I?" And he said, "You passed your NAB." And I was like, what's that meant to mean? So later in the day we went to class and we all sat down, and I was like, I don't really know what's happening here. There was just something weird about that interaction. And Mr. Brown came in and he was like, "Only one person in the class passed their NAB." And at that point I was like, oh, because I promise you, if I'd known that I was the only person in that class who'd passed their NAB, I would not have been loudly celebrating around the school all day. If the ground could swallow me up in that moment, it totally would have, and there would have been just a little seat at my desk with like a big hole in the ground underneath. My final story is from my 6th year at school, which was my last year, and this was a year that they decided to put on a pantomime. For those of you who aren't aware of British culture, a pantomime is basically a show that they put on around about Christmas. If you think about Shrek the Musical, then that's kind of the nearest I can think of in American culture to a British pantomime. But pantomimes have certain jokes that always crop up, like, oh no it isn't, oh yes it is, and things like that that you don't really understand until you've been to see a panto. So anyways, we decided to put a pantomime on, and I was just one of the background characters. I didn't really have anything special to do, but the art department had decided it would be really cool if all the people who were just kind of milling around in the background had their own personalities, and they all belonged to certain scenes. So I was chosen to be a goth, and I had a long lacy black dress to wear. I had black boots, and they gave me a black bob wig to wear as well. Now, I was quite a tall student at this point because I was leaving school. I'd basically done all my growing, and it just so happens that from a distance and on the stage, I looked like a drag queen version of the head of music. And it was totally unintentional, and none of the faculty seemed to be aware of the effect that this costume had had. One night they decided to have a preview of the pantomime, and we were all in full costume, and people were wondering why Mrs. Skinner was dancing crazily on the stage. But then people were like, but she's in the orchestra as well, like what's going on? Why is there a version of Mrs. Skinner on the stage? And nobody kind of knew that I was in the pantomime because they thought I was Mrs. Skinner. And then one night I was just going down the corridor, I was like, this is just so weird. I look like a drag queen version of Mrs. Skinner. And then I turned around and she was there. And she was just looking as if to say, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, I think that was the first time she'd realised that's what my costume looked like. And then she didn't say anything, but as she walked away, it looked like she was struggling not to laugh because she realised I was totally right. But yeah, Mrs. Skinner was lovely. She was a lovely teacher, and I'm sure she probably danced better than I did in that show. I hope you enjoyed hearing those stories from my high school days. Did they remind you of your high school days in any ways? Did they remind you of any particular memories? If they did, be sure to put them down below because I look forward to reading them. I enjoy your stories as much as my own stories. And if you have any other comments or questions, put them down below as well, and I look forward to reading them. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Cheerio! Thanks again for watching, everybody. If you didn't see the first part of this video, check out over here where you can catch up with it. YouTube has suggested a video you might like over here, and my subscribe button is over here if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos. Thanks again, everyone. Cheerio!